TJ has come here from New Zealand. He's a specialist on the customer experience space. So TJ, if you would be kind enough. I would like to call Hamid Akhavan. Hamid is a partner in Longard Capital. He used to be on the board of InContact and many other things. He used to hold some very senior positions in Siemens. Welcome, Hamid. Arun Seth, I think a lot of you know Arun already. Arun is an independent director in Servion. He's on our board. And he's also, he used to be the chairman of BT. And Chris. So a special welcome to Mr. Botting, who's flown down specifically from US. Chris is the general manager for Cisco and is very much in line and runs the whole contact center business for Cisco globally. So what we have, gentlemen, is an opportunity to have all four of you join us. I have a few questions which have been collected based on some surveys that were done. So I'm going to kick it off by starting off with you. You're free to ask me questions. You can see that I already have a cheat sheet. If you start asking me questions, I'm going to have a tough time. But I'll start off with you, Chris. Customer experience is the trend and the single biggest differentiator in the marketplace today. How is Cisco seeing this? What trends do you see with respect to contact centers and the whole digital space? And how do you see this space growing in the US and globally?
Wow, that could take the entire time, I think. But just at a very high level, so we believe customer experience is the most disruptive force in the industry. If you think about all the major companies that have disrupted industries over the past 5 to 10 years, think about the online companies and some of the others, every single one, in my estimation, has disrupted by changing the customer experience. So as we talk about customer experience with Servion, I get really excited because you're right at the forefront of where disruption happens. And we're in a world where you either disrupt or get disrupted. So I've been with Cisco a very long time, general manager for about 4 or 5 years now. And over the course, we've grown our business based on what we've done to our platform from very small market share. We're number 1 market share in North America, and we're number 2 market share worldwide. And this is done from a few perspectives. One is we believe in a world where care is personal. You know who you are. We know who contacts, right? And contextual. We know that if you contacted us 2 days ago about a topic, you're probably contacting us about the same topic today. And it's effortless, right? We all read about the effortless customer experience. So this has been our vision for many years from a platform perspective. Many rich APIs which allow partners like Servion with your customer experience vision to take it to market and help your customers disrupt their competitors. So that's kind of it at a very high level.
Sure. TJ, what do you think from a Gartner perspective about all this?
Well, I echo that sentiment, and we believe that the contact centers of tomorrow are no longer contact centers but customer engagement hubs, customer experience hubs. The expectation of consumers out there, the customer base out there, is growing. And it's growing at a rate where that is driving change within industries, right? I mean, today, if one retailer gives you an experience over your mobile device, you expect that from all the others as well, right? So it is reshaping the industry as a whole. And we are also starting to see this mesh up of industries where everyone is learning from each other, and these marketplaces, these ecosystems being developed. I think that the complexity will only increase rather than decrease. But with regards to the overall experience, I think it is going to be a much richer experience for the consumer, the end customer, as we move forward. And it's a great time because we are at an inflection point. The last 3 years and the next 3 years are going to define the entire way people interact with the moment of truth, the brand promise, and the brand trust that exists.
Sure, sure. And Hamid, what's your take? You've seen this industry transform. You've been on the board of, in contact. You've seen the cloud version of this. What's your thought?
Um, Look, I mean, obviously, very eloquently explained here how important this experience is in terms of the growth of a business. But tangibly speaking, there's a couple of things that are happening that happened in, many other parts of the world that I think ultimately are defining this experience. One of them is a great multi-channel experience. That's almost table stakes. And if you don't have a good multi-channel, I think you're leaving a whole great segment of the population out of that experience. I mean, so maybe given my age, I'm one of the old-fashioned guys. I still pick up the phone and call 1-800, this and that. But I can see my kids, my daughters, my son, they don't want to do that. They like to interact the way they like to do it, whether it be through a social channel or a chat channel. That really is important to them. It really is, it's almost table stake that has to happen. The other thing is that, the organization need to define that experience uniquely to their own institution. They have to look at insight within the institution and industry. That insight that you can extract, I think by some accounts or studies, only 10% of the knowledge of an institution is ever documented. And from that, the rest of the 90% are in people's experience. I know so many things, I don't ever write them down. And from that 10%, only about 10% is ever put into insight. So look at how little of the knowledge we extract or mine to shape that experience. And so I think just having the analytics to extract the insight, and I think that the leading companies around the world are going there right now.
Sure. And Arun, from your perspective, how does this dovetail into, we have a lot of folks from banks over here. So how do you see this playing out in the Indian market?
Anybody here from the telecom industry? Thank God. No, I'm just saying that I've been most of my life in the telecom industry, and we've set a really low standard of customer experience in this country. So everybody can do better than us. But and that's a question which people ask me, hey, you're from the telecom industry, why does the network suck? I said, we are very democratic. We spread pain equally. Yeah. That's what we do. Barring that, I think the real reason why, what to the point which Hamid said about your kids doing this, we should be mindful that we are a youthful nation. I think we're about 40, 50, 45% less than 35 years old. And those guys don't like to, most of them will never see a PC even. That's what we've been used to. So most of our systems have been built around PCs and stuff like that. So you've got to be mobile first in this, is my personal view. And a lot of our, I'm not saying this is against any bank or anybody like that, but their systems have been built with a lot of legacy. So how do you transform that legacy to the agile fellow which you need today? That's the big challenge for CIOs, a lot of CIOs out here. That's the real challenge which is there. That's one. And as far as experience is concerned, take a company like Apple. Apple has set kind of a benchmark for what is customer experience. But everybody can't be owning end-to-end.
Right.
So that's the real challenge out there. But I think the contact center industry out here, and I've been quite deeply involved. I've been on the board of Nasscom, and I used to be chairing the BPO part. And this is what their worry is. And Nasscom, if you read the papers, is this automation, everything that you're talking about is going to take away jobs. Sure, it is. But what's going to happen is you're going to have old stuff. And to your point, TJ, which you said about complexity, what looks simple is actually deeply complex behind. How do you get databases which exist for so long to do there? So I think there's a big opportunity out there for all banks, everybody to reinvent themselves. That's my personal view.
And I'm going to open it up for all of you, so then feel free. So given that all of you are saying this is, customer experience is sort of going to drive, and it's the big change, and you see all of this transforming, do you think, from your experience, do you see as a consumer, the brands that you interact with, have they started adopting to it? As a user, do you see the difference? And then as technologists and business people, what do you...
Your wife. You invite your best friends over for dinner. They knock on the door. You open the door and say, who are you and what do you want? You would never do that But as companies, it's done every single day, right? So I do interact with a lot of brands. I fly one particular airline. I call the line. They know who I am. They know what flight I'm getting ready to board. And they make it easy, right? It's personal. It's about me. It's contextual. They know what's going on, and they just make it easy. But every industry is different. And, I meet with a lot of customers around the world, and one of my pieces of advice is don't look at your competitors. Look at other industries for what they're doing best and try and adopt that. So if you're an online retailer, look at the rental car industry, just as an example. Right? There's lots of different lessons you can learn that way. Because if you're looking at your competitor, you're chasing your competitor, you don't have a differentiated strategy. You have a try and catch up strategy, and that's not necessarily a winning solution. But start off, I would also say start off small. Start off with a flexible platform and a great partner, but get small wins. Make small changes. Go in and try your own websites. Try your own customer interaction experiences and find out what's good, and more importantly, find out what's not good. Come up with a short prioritized list and just go in and start trying things and make little changes. Get some quick wins, build your political capital, build your internal financing so you can invest more to continue to accelerate the transformation of your business.
Sure.
Well, earlier this morning, I provided an example in the government sector in New Zealand where the tax office, was announced last week, that they got rid of 4,000 out of their 5,600 people. Well, not to say got rid of them, they redeployed them. And that was because they did not need that many front-end individuals anymore because of technology. One was automation, a lot of intelligence and technology being built into the IVR system, the business process platforms that they have when it comes to tax. And the intent is to deploy them into other segments of government that will enhance the level of experience that citizens get from services. Now, we must also understand that it is not just technology. It is about humanizing the services that technologies deliver. So the humanization of technology is very important. You could have the best technology, but if the person on the ground or your brand ambassador does not echo the sentiments or the brand promise, then you would have a disconnect. So there are organizational aspects that also need to be dealt with. And I think change management comes in, and there's a lot more that goes into it. But at the end of the day, it is about providing that level of humanization and humanity within the technology that's being deployed. I think that's very important as well for us to consider.
So if I may add to that, I think that one of the key technical decisions that I would highly recommend everybody to consider is how they can take advantage of cloud deployments. And the reason for me is very simple. Cloud to me means maximum flexibility and anti-obsolescence and continuous innovation. One of the things that the times are moving fast and customer expectations are changing in a matter of years and not decades anymore. So from 2 years ago till now or 5 years from now, all these experiences, expectations of the customers will change. And a cloud deployment has got a couple of advantages. First of all, with a cloud, you can have agile development from the supplier side. So you continuously get these updates. You don't have to wait for, twice a year, once a year deployments. You get the continuous installments. You stay fresh. Your infrastructure is very elastic. Your investment is very elastic. You could grow infinitely without having to have this, disruptive step function, times or investments that you have to plan in ahead of time. You always overplan or underplan. It's very hard to exactly plan on right. And then, not having to deal with that, having to go straight. Finance guys sometimes like it because it's more of a pay as you go as opposed to having to, shell out the money up front. And lastly, and this is taken from a guy who has been very close to this issue, very few companies in the future will have ability to manage their own cybersecurity. And you want to put that in the hands of somebody that has a pooled responsibility and resources to develop, to test once, to get all the bugs out. Not every company in the world is going to be cyber expert. Some 60% of the companies in the world have been penetrated. And the reason they have not lost everything they have is because the actors who have gone in there haven't found anything they want to touch. They don't want to get caught. So it's almost like if a thief goes to a house and looks around, doesn't find too many valuable things, what they want to do is they want to leave without knowing anybody entered the house, because they don't want the police coming searching because they could get caught without stealing anything. So most actors come in, they spend a couple, 3, 4 months, a year, and they realize they can't find anything, they leave. But most companies have been penetrated. So to me, advantages of cloud are compelling. I think that's why, in the U.S., U.S. government in 2010 made a mandate that all U.S. government services, every single one, has to be cloud offered, all of it, because U.S. government knows its agencies cannot manage cybersecurity. So that's another benefit of cloudification. I think, Sameet, that's an area that I was very happy to see how Servion is leading the charge with Cisco together.
Sure. Sorry, no, go ahead.
One point which everybody is talking is that we are all equating our experience with our online experience. But frankly, in India, 95% of business is still real. So how do you the expectation is the online experience in the real world, and for folks like you from banks and all, that's the real challenge. How do you do it? So, and you can actually, there are technologies now available, and I'm going to make a plug. I've been on the Nasscom board. I drive startups. So there are a lot of these young startups who can help you to, if you walk into the room, they actually can figure out who you are before you reach the payment till. So, because in the online world, you always know who the guy is on your portal or on your app. But in the real world, you don't know till the guy is coming to pay or come to the teller. So you have lots and lots of technologies. So I'd be happy to speak. I'm not here to plug for any of them. But to me, if you guys can solve that challenge working with this ecosystem out here, you can actually do, there's one company of mine which actually works with, shopping, one of these large shopping companies, where using sound, it actually detects you before you turn up at the till. And with the CRM, to say, hello, Mr. So-and-so, or whatever it may be, and be able to personalize. And the amount of data which is in banks, in telcos, to your point, we are not using the value of that data to give you insights. And if you can do these two things, you can actually tremendously improve the customer experience, clearly using cloud or whatever it may be.
So, just last question before I open up to the floor. Specific to India, right? If I'm a contact center manager, or if I'm a user experience head, or if I'm a multi-channel manager, what should I be thinking if I'm a bank or if I'm a telco, given what Arun just said in terms of, 90% of my business is real, we are still not as online. What do you guys, if I'm that person, what should I?
have one burning recommendation. Don't take an incremental step. Take a leapfrog. One of the advantages of being, I don't want to say behind, but not having deployed the current generation of leading edge is that you could skip it. I'll give you an example. Africa, in early 2000s, Africa was #1 in the world in mobile banking. #1 in the world. We did not have mobile banking in the US. Europe had some mobile banking, so I could do some minimal things with my checking account, check the balance, that's all I could do. In Africa, all mobile payments were done via mobile phone. Why was that? The reason for that is they had no banks. There was no branch to go to. They had no ATM machines, no banks, they had no infrastructure. They ended up leapfrogging to the latest generation ahead of the rest of the world. Now Africa leads the world in peer-to-peer lending. People in Africa lend money to each other, just like borrowing things back and forth. They don't need to go to banks, they could do this. Now, I use that analogy and bring it to contact center and say, if you have nothing and you want to just go to multi-channel, don't say, all I need is just simple integration of email or chat. That is actually being a follower forever. I think the best thing to do is take a look at what is the leading solutions out there. What is the best multi-channel? What is the best cloud deployment? What is the best, insight tool you could get that analyzes your data and give you the leading best experience in the world? And India has done this. They have done it in IT when they put their mind into it. Just go right there. And that is the advantage of skipping a generation and being at the list. Now, no legacy to worry about. So that would be my #1 recommendation. It's just go all the way, because that's where the world is heading, and you could be leading that.
I echo that point because if you look at the was it a 10 rupee sachet or 1 rupee sachets that was it's fundamentally changing the way exactly. So there was a lot of disruption coming in the way they were interacting with their consumers and taking products out. However, with regards to customer experience, I think it's about redesigning the entire and reimagining the entire processes itself. I think with regards to the future, that this next decade that's coming in, I believe that with two of the three largest economies in the world in Asia Pac, there is significant change coming. You have a large population base that is hungry for innovation, that is willing to take that leap of faith. But at the same time, I think the CIOs of today need to understand that they need to listen to what the consumers want, what their expectations are, and take that leap of faith as well. And don't talk about incremental re-engineering initiatives. Look at a complete redesign. And our position with regards to, take for example, automation. Companies that look at labor replacement, for example, they will not be able to successfully change significant positions within their organizations. They need to complete redesign the way they embrace their processes with regards to automation. So I think that is important, and CIOs need to realize that today they are the forefront of that change within their organizations.
Sure. Anything else you guys like to add before I?
Made a plug for my startups. Thank you. I'd be very happy to, because I lead the Nasscom side for product startups, and we want to work with you guys.
Yeah, so from the platform perspective, so I completely agree. You need to understand where you are. You need to understand where you want to go, right? The disruptive visionary, but you need to get there, and it takes time to get there. We've been building and are continuing to build the platform for the next generation of care. And you need to work with a partner and a vendor who's going to be there for the long run, right? It's no good having a vision that's a 20-year vision or a 10-year care vision, and the vendor's gone in a year or two or whatever. You also have the ability to adopt different channels over time as your business pace and needs dictate. Because you go multi-channel, so I'll come back to the definition of multi-channel in a minute, but as you go multi-channel, you don't have to take all the channels. You take one. You can add a second one and another one. Just know for sure that they do work together, and they work together over time. And then we talk about channels. So we're all a voice-centric world. That's where we all started. But we talk about multi-channels. That means you can have a voice channel, an email channel, a text chat channel. Just go down the list of all the different channels. That's multi-channel. And now people have this concept of omni-channel where one agent can handle all the different channels, and you might be able to even escalate from channel to channel. Everybody says they want omni-channel agents. I only know one company in the world that does true omni-channel agents. They're very expensive. So when people talk about omni-channel, that's interesting, but I think you need to think the step beyond that, and that is to be able to carry across channels over time. So an interaction you had a couple of weeks ago with a customer, maybe this same topic on a different channel, whether it's an in-person channel or an online channel, that you had another conversation with last week, and it may be a person who's trying to engage you in another conversation today, right now, the moment of truth. The ability to link these different conversations together, so when the customer comes into you in person or on the phone or on chat, you can say, oh, thank you, so-and-so. Is this related to the issue that you've been communicating with us about over the past couple of weeks? It's personal, and it's contextual, and it's effortless.
Perfect. So on that note, I'm going to open it up to the floor. Any questions you would like to ask TJ, Hamid, Arun, and Chris, based on what we heard? If you're shy, they're around later on as well. The best question wins an award. No, really? No questions?
Yeah.
No. Okay. So how about I take it from a technology level and you take it from the Servion perspective? So
Sure.
I think they line up well. So we talk about automation, right? And we talk about bots are going to replace everybody and everybody's going to be out of work and all that. And I've never seen that looking over history, right? What I've seen is as things become more and more automated, the people who are doing the jobs that got automated went on to add higher and higher value, just as the example with the healthcare in New Zealand. Well, IoT is the same kind of thing, right? And Cisco is the leader in IoT. And the way we look at it is IoT is machine to machine. But sometimes things happen. And when things happen and a machine doesn't know how to respond, it's kind of like when a call comes into a contact center or web chat comes into a contact center. You can automate that with a bot or a set of different bots. But if the bot doesn't know how to respond, the first thing you do is punt it to a person. It's the same thing in IoT. If an IoT device cannot communicate with its master, and the master doesn't know how to respond, it can very easily, right? Servion can do that for you. Just hook it up to a person, and you can handle exceptions. And there's been a lot of discussion over the past 20 years about how voice is dead, voice is going away, and all this. We don't see that. What we see is the interactions conducted in voice, by voice with a person. They are becoming, it used to be the same person would do 1,000, or do an interaction 1,000 times, and now we see a person doing 1,000 different interactions. They're handling more and more exceptions, and those calls become more rich and more complex. And that's where the tribal knowledge that Hamid was talking about earlier needs to be captured. So you need tools to listen in and start capturing that information and gathering that information. So I think IoT is great. I think it's going to increase the importance of customer care, and it really can dramatically change the customer experience.
Sure.
If you look at IoT in the context of machine-to-machine interaction, I think this is where we will see a gradual evolution and the building of digital business. So machine-to-machine interactions. Today, your car, for example, will be able to interact with the dealership where you take your car for servicing, because the devices within the car itself understands that there is a preventive or predictive maintenance issue that's coming up. So what happens is it deals with the dealership. It also sends feedback to the engineers of the car manufacturer and so on and so forth. So it is, again, coming back to that ecosystem discussion that we were having, I believe that IoT would be a significant disruptor for organizations moving forward. One aspect of it is what was mentioned just now by Chris. The other aspect of it is in the devices that exist within the, for example, the vehicles, the home environment, and so on. Even from a security perspective, the interaction. We saw the refrigerator that was sending out spams in the past, right? So today they are perfecting the technology to the extent where the refrigerator will be, ordering the right type of replenishments that is required for your home household itself, monitoring the security. So all of these are going to create new business opportunities, but it's going to be more mashups between industries. So the automotive industries with the, for example, with the travel industry, because you've got the car hire companies will be getting into this, and so on and so forth. So I think net, what will happen is it will create new opportunities for every aspect, from every aspect of the interactions itself. Now the price points to manage this will drop, right? But that's because everything is being automated. Now, coming back to the point about agents, the automation of agents, I believe that the agent population now in New Zealand today, if I were to go into a bank branch or even in Australia to conduct a transaction, I get charged to interact with a human, right? And rightly so, because their wages compared to the machine, obviously, there is a significant cost differential. So I get charged $5 to actually withdraw money from that particular person at the counter versus going to the ATM machine and withdrawing it. That's free. So I believe that human interaction will become a premium as we move forward. And the types of agents, some people call it super agents, whatever it is, I believe that the skill set required for agents will also increase over time. And rightly so, because we don't want to be doing some of the low, 30% of that or 40% of that low-end work. And that is where we've had issues with attrition in the past. People not satisfied, they don't see it as a career and so on. So I think as an industry, we are along the right path. IoT is going to enable us to create new business opportunities for our clients and for our customers. And I think overall, we need to understand that the graduation of these services will come over this period of the next decade.
I can't wait for the day where under IoT, the machine doesn't want to talk to another machine, prefers talking to an agent, right? It just upgrades itself to talk to an agent because it gets better service, right?
Perfect. Any other questions? I'll take it up in interest of time. I just want to thank all of you for coming here and sharing your thoughts and vision with us. Really appreciate it. Can we have a round of applause for our panel?
Great. Thank you. Thanks for coming.